Just give me a moment, just trying to do some finishing work here. Thank you all for joining me so far. Just a couple more moments. Share the video if you can. This is an important topic. I hope you share the video, because one of the things that we've been doing is we've been having this so-called national conversation concerning national development. And I think it's important for us to have a perspective of what it requires for us from a national development perspective. One of the most important things that you will see that we are facing a dilemma concerning our national growth and our development. We've been waiting for strategies from government concerning the policies or the steps that we should be taking towards growing our economy, one involving small business development, which I call jobs, jumpstart our business sector. The other aspect of it is that we should be looking for ways to encourage individuals to have access to capital to actually begin the concept that was promised to us to begin from 50 years ago, which our forefathers promised, and that is one of ownership of the economy. But we have to actually begin to have a conversation from a 21st century environment. And a lot of times we'll have our leadership will actually have these conversations concerning these so-called concepts about, 21st century. One of my most favorite part of it is where they do this this whole concept of millennials, generation X, Y, and Z, which is the boomers to the millennials, which is generation Y, and there's a generation after that called generation Z. Those are the generation Z are individuals between the age 11 and 25. The millennials is between 26 and 40, and the boomers is between 41 and 55. And so those are the majority of the individuals that make up the Bahamas. And so oftentimes we use these, these statements about transformation, transformative. We use the word innovative. We use the word digital. We use the word knowledge-based economy. We use the word not Bitcoin, but blockchain. And we use the word that we're going to have these digital economies, these what we call Silicon Valleys, these so-called green islands, smart cities, smart islands, and smart countries. The most important aspect of that is the fact that the number one player in every single thing we do now in the 21st century is energy. And for those of us in the Bahamas, we talk about the so-called new economy that we want to embrace. And the problem with that is energy is our primary focus that we somehow came to ignore. What is it that has stagnated the economy or caused the economy to go through some sort of hardship, and that including the personal economies of individuals within their home? Because you have to consider yourself that you might not consider this before, but you are a personal economy. Whether it be you have to take care of your light, phone, water bills, all those different things, whatever it is that you have to have. So what you want to do is begin to understand what affects you most in the world, and that is energy. Now, one of the things that we don't take into effect is that before I go into the failure of us to address our energy needs within our economy, how energy reflects towards our national development, the so-called digital economy, and the use of technology. Now, everyone in the Bahamas most likely have one of these, okay, or even multiple of these within their hand, and you take it for granted that this is not connected anywhere, right? But what we have to understand is like this is the new S8 Plus. I have talking to you on another S8 Plus, the iPhone 10 that I have back here, as well as the host of other telephones that you may have, we have to consider one thing: where does it get its energy source from? Yes, it's not attached anywhere, but believe it or not, these phones, or computers as I call them, are attached to the grid. And so every time we have an influx of these, now that these new models are out, a few thousand of these enters into the Bahamas. Where do they get their energy from? They get it from the grid. So without recognizing that every time there's a new evolution of our technology, it increases our consumption, then we can never address this whole conversation of meeting demand needs. And it seems to me like our leadership have no understanding of this. And so you could increase capacity all you want. There has to be a combination of a conversation, that says that we must reduce consumption while at the same time maybe increasing capacity. But one of the things that we have to talk about is to basically go to so-called green energy. And you will hear the pundits and whatever else that simply tell you it can't work in the Bahamas. Yet not a single person can bring a comprehensive study as to say whether or not it can and cannot work. Here in Grand Bahama, they tell you, and throughout the Bahamas, they'll tell you that wind energy don't work, in spite of us being in the trade winds and in places where wind is significantly less than the Bahamas, actually generates energy from wind. We have the ability to generate tidal energy. As you know, we're on top of a mountain in a river, so water is continuously moving. No matter how minute, we can generate from tidal energy. And so there's the concept called floating wind power that we could put out to sea that protects our environment. We could put them on land, and we have these tests that has been done by Emera in the past, and I don't know by BEC, where they've done wind energy. But these fans, they're not even solar, they're not even wind fan. They were like fans they put at the height of some trees, and then came back with a declaration that we don't have enough power, enough wind to generate power. For those of you who have never seen a wind farm, I mean, these towers, them are a few stories high, 50, 60, 70, 90, 100 and something feet above ground. So anytime you see, if you don't see a tower for testing that stands at least 10 or 20 stories into the air, then you know they're just BSing you, as to imply that they actually did a feasibility study. But there's no feasibility study, because the geo studies are there, shows you the wind and the wind paths that flies through the Bahamas. In fact, there have even been studies conducted to say that these wind farms actually can reduce the effect of hurricanes, depending on where you put them in regards to the hurricane wind coming towards land. And so we have to have an honest conversation. Here we are. We have one of the highest radiant heat spectrum in the world for where we are based on the equator. Yet they will tell you that we don't have enough sunlight to generate solar energy. And you have places like Germany and other places that not even have the dimensional success or graphics where, sun exposure that we have generating 50%, 100% of their power. You have companies like Telsa and the rest of them that is literally down in Puerto Rico now, putting an energy system there in Hawaii, and I think Guam and other places that are putting in energy system that utilizes sunlight. And none of those countries that they are now utilizing energy has the radiant heat that is generated in the Bahamas. In fact, it's the radiant heat that allows us to basically brag about it allows us to brag about the level of aragonite that is generated in the Bahamas. And so, we have, nowhere else in the world that we have enough aragonite to generate, enough radiant heat to generate aragonite in the rest of the world. We generate it here. But we ignore all of these different aspects, and one have to ask, is the stagnation of our economy a deliberate act by our leadership? And we have to ask that question, because there's only a couple of choices that we have before us. So thank you, Dario. You're right. Netherlands also have the wind farms out at sea. And one of the questions we have to ask is, are they inept? Are they incompetent? Are they incapable? Or are they deliberate in their action? And so those are the only choices we have. Because if they are aware and informed, and they are not moving towards the things that needs to enable us as an economic juggernaut, then it has to be a form of corruption, meaning unfit for the purpose for which they sit in the House of Assembly or in any part of leadership within our country or an appointment around the world. Or they are inept, incompetent, or incapable of doing whatever it is. And the choice is theirs, and you can form your own opinion as to what is what. Now, back to the concept of energy and technology. What you don't understand, right? Here it is that you utilizing this phone. It took energy to make it, but this is not plugged anywhere, and this is of no value to you unless it actually is fully charged with energy. And so it tells you that this utilizing of this device relies 100% on energy. Utilizing of your computers and all of your different variables relies on energy. And so one of the things that we need is an effective, efficient, low-cost energy source. This $40 cents a kilowatt an hour is unsustainable for any form of economic development. Our neighbor, Florida, pays around 10 cents, and we have places around within us that even goes even lower. We talk about attracting these so-called digital companies that is going to come to the Bahamas. But ask yourself the question, you are a multi-billion-dollar company with tens of millions of dollars a month in a light bill. Let's pretend your light bill is only $1 million per month in the jurisdiction where you are. And let's put that at 8 cents, considering your discount. And so let's ask yourself, would you come to the Bahamas so your light bill could go from $1 million to $5 million a month? Really, would you come for that? Now do the multiples if you have $1, $2, $3, $4 million. So when you do the multiple and you says, my light bill is $60 million a year, then for me to come to the Bahamas, I have to agree that my light bill will be $300 million a year. What type of madness is that? What if we save only $1 million a month or $12 million? I got to agree that I will come to the Bahamas and it'll be anywhere from $60 million to $120 million a year. Why would I start paying $12 million a year to pay $100 million a year in the Bahamas so I could provide jobs for Bahamians? Makes absolutely no sense. And so when you begin to have this conversation concerning this new economy that we talk about, in 2020 in Dubai, with the Expo 2020, we'll begin to make some announcement of some major shift in global economics. And we're going to be moving from the knowledge-based economy to the digital economy. That's interconnectivity of everything. That's where your phone, your television, your refrigerator, your stove, your car radio, everything is interconnected as one and the same. And so what you're doing now is you're looking at an increase for energy consumption. And so the cost of energy has to go down and the efficiency for which we live also has to go up. So what we have to do now is we have to have a conversation as to what are strategic plans that we have to basically move our economy forward. And I'm not hearing that from my government. It's going on 6 months and I have not heard a single strategic plan that will give me any sort of excitement. I've heard ad hoc statements that people say is policy. It's my government policy position. I'm a 21st century thinker, and I would like to be able to pick up a document and say, this is your policy on immigration. This is your policy on energy. This is your policy on small business development. This is your policy on education. This is your policy on whatever it is. Give us some strength to actually begin to consider what are we going to do for our so-called national development. But there's none. And if I'm missing it, I invite whoever it is that has a copy of a single published government policy, gazetted policy, please forward it to me so I could, take back my position. But when you begin to talk about energy consumption and national development, BPL and Emera are not capable of meeting those demands. Let's put that out there right away. Unequivocally, I will challenge the leadership of BPL and Emera for them to tell us how they could meet the economic realities of what is required to develop the Bahamas. It cannot be done utilizing those two vehicles. For us to look to Emera or BPL is to go against a biblical principle, and that is trying to put new wine in old wineskins. BPL and Emera are old wineskins, relics of the past. We have to begin to take a position, and this is my position. My position for energy consumption is that we must begin to recognize that we have failed with BPL or BEC or whatever it is that you want to call it. It is drastic. It's a colonial failure, colossal failure by leadership of the past and the present, because they seem to want to adopt the same position going forward. A 21st century Bahamas must recognize that we have created a legacy debt of at least $1 billion with BEC that is not going to go anywhere. It is ours. It's the people's own. You can't just wave a wand and these legacy debt for which the government acted as surety is going to go away. Let's recognize that. And what we have to do now is come up with an immediate team of individuals that understand the 21st century with the need to stand into the future and design a 21st century smart grid for the Bahamas as an overlay to what we have. We don't need to patch BEC. What we need is a new system to be built in place on New Providence and the Family Islands. What we need is a smart grid system to be built on Grand Bahama that makes Emera obsolete, or they have to move into a competitive environment. Emera has failed us. They came in as vultures, and they did what vultures and parasites do. They suck the life out of you, extract profits, and send it away out of the country. That's a fact. It's an undeniable fact that Emera cannot deny. Emera has built a multi-million-dollar facility and has recovered all of its investment in about 5 years. Never heard of. Can you imagine building a 40 to 50-year plant, recovering your investment in 5 years, and then have 35 years of pure profit to generate that you have no infrastructural payments to make? None heard of in any way other places, in other parts of the world. So let's face it for what it is. But we have this conversation about developing this Silicon Valley Grand Bahama. It cannot be done with Emera. That's not debatable. And it's one of the things that we have to actually face the reality. We keep trying to dress up failure and pass her off as a new woman for which we can embrace and date. We must recognize the failure, call it for what it is of the past. Our leadership in the 21st century, it is actually aggressively 25 years deep into the 21st century. And we have yet to begin to put in place the infrastructures that requires 21st century growth. We have not. The great digital economic revolution started in 1992, right at the end of Sir Lyndon Pinland's rule. And so we have to ask ourselves, for 25 years of this economic gold rush, where were Bahamians? What role did Bahamians play in this economic gold rush that happens in the Bahamas? No, globally actually, not the Bahamas, but globally. Essentially, we played no factor. We have an economy that we don't own. Let's take an example. We like to say that we own the banking industry, the financial service industry, the so-called tourism industry. And ownership of an industry requires production of a product. It requires ownership of the facilities that produce that product. And it requires ownership of a particular industry. We cannot meet those requirements. We do not own any of those things. What do we provide in the banking industry? Labor. What do we provide in the tourism industry? Labor. What is it that we provide inside of the financial service industry? Labor. So we might just admit that we are nothing more than a labor plantation. It is time for us, though, to shift that dynamics. During the revolution of our forefathers, they said that we were looking for political and then eventually an economic revolution of ownership. So what we have to do now is this new generation of thinkers, we have to begin to grab the mantle. If you are 55 years or younger, do not look to anyone 56 and above for leadership. They were of that era. Even I'm coming very close to that 55. But those individuals of leadership at 55 and older, they are not individuals for which we can look forward to for the new revolutionary development of the Bahamas that requires. Those are the old wineskins. In fact, one of the things that we can take into effect is that a lot of people like to refer to Miles Monroe prophecy, where he says you will see new ideas that you've never heard. You'll see things that the old tools of the past cannot be used for the new Bahamas. But doing his talk about this new leadership, and he says, but wine, the new wine that won't fit into the old wineskins. And we have to ask ourselves, during his entire so-called revelation, never once did he mention members of parliament. Never once did he mention politicians. So he said leaders You do not have to be in the House of Assembly or the Senate to be a leader in your country. Dr. Miles Monroe never once directly referred to them. He said leadership. We as a country will see leadership unseen before. That leadership is in each of us. And it's time for us to come together as a collective mindset and become the collective intelligence that's necessary for developing the Bahamas. But it's only with these skill sets of unity where we stop looking to members of parliament who may not even comprehend and understand where they are in the whole global aspect of the Bahamas, of where we need to be. You know, some of these individuals had no idea or no desire of so-called fighting for economically empowering people before they got into the House of Assembly. This is an anointing of what we call the alpha male principle. And let me teach you a little about the alpha male principle. If you go to a herd or a flock or something of that sort in the animal kingdom, the alpha male doing any type of kill or feeding is fed first. And the alpha male gets to eat its entire full before the rest of the herd or whatever else begins to have their eat. And there was a reason for that. The alpha male was required to sacrifice itself for the protection, safety, and well-being of the herd. And so the problem is that this alpha male had to earn his way to be in that leadership role of protecting the herd, to earn the respect of all the other people in the herd, that we can look to you for leadership, that we can look for you to protect, to be the first into battle, to do whatever it is. The problem is, in the alpha male society of our Bahamas, no one has to fight for the position. They appoint it. What you do is you take a person, and like we did this on May 10th, and as soon as they were elected, we give them a title of alpha males, call it MPs. Here's the problem. They do not come with an understanding of what the responsibility of an alpha male is. They are a member of the herd. And so do not be surprised when they begin to adopt an all for me as much as I can, because while the rest of the herd stands aside with the assumption that their feasting is because he is an alpha male who will look to protect the flock. No, but these individuals that we now call leaders are simply feeding because they know that their title of alpha males, MPs, senators, or whatever, will come to an end in 2022. They're not real alpha males. They're not here to protect the flock. They're not here to protect behemoths. Alpha male leadership is not a title that you attach to somebody. You cannot be appointed or anointed from some leader within the country or prime minister to declare you an alpha male. Cannot. It has to become a natural instinct. But we have adopted the gang mentality that allow us to conform of being the red, the yellow, and now the green, and simply not understanding that the gang mentality requires, if you wear the yellow, then guess what? All the reds and green is out to get you. You don't have to understand why. Just know that the red, if you're wearing yellow or green, red is the enemy. If you're wearing red, green and yellow is the enemy. If you're wearing green, red and yellow is the enemy. That's a gang mentality. It's a society that exists. I'm wearing the three colors. And for me, it's significant. It stands for an alliance for change. And it's always been, this has been around since 2004. It's always been my position. And simply said, it says, let's multiply what is needed. And multiply what is good. Minus what is not needed. Add what we're looking for, where there's no division, equals a better Bahamas. And what it is that it is possible. And so, and which brings me, let me just get back to the conversation concerning how our dilemma is. Our dilemma is that there is some giants outside of the land, and there's some leadership within our country who are going to come back to you and say, there's some giants out there. But there are many of us that don't see giants. We see a promised land promised to us by our forefathers and by our Father, our Heavenly Father. And so those of us, many of us in the Bahamas, is not afraid of the perception of giants that those within the House of Assembly sees. We don't see them as giant. We know that God is on our side. So our dilemma now is to come up with a strategic plan. But no strategic plan can be developed for the Bahamas without a solution for energy. if we do not have a plan for sub 10 cents a kilowatt. Sorry, but I was waiting for the video to come back in. I don't understand. I'm going between data and internet, so I apologize for that. But going back to my point is that if you do not see a sub 10 cents a kilowatt for energy development, I put to you that we're not serious. There can be no real economic development. So essentially, all we will be doing is extricating whatever monies comes into the Bahamas back out by basically paying for oil or whatever else it is. What we need is a strategic plan for energy reduction. And I think Dr. Gilbert Morris made an important point today in one of his posts. Why is it that we cannot have where every single person in the Bahamas become energy generators, where C. Allen Johnson has the ability to sell energy to Glenroll? Why not? Why is it that we all can't become energy generators within our country? Let's become a net zero energy country where literally 100% of our energy is generated from green energy. And so there can be a strategic plan with a smart grid system. And for those of you that's just joining, my recommendation is to poise to actually get rid of BC. We must declare BC and Emera persona non gratis. They are ultra virus to the development of a 21st century Bahamas. At the same time, we must adopt a strategic plan of creating a smart grid system for which individuals can tie in and we can regulate the amount of energies coming into the grid, clean, green energy, where every building, every rooftop, every home, every parking lot, every open space becomes a net energy generation facility. And the beauty about it is that if we could get our power generation down, imagine what it could be for home ownership. Imagine that where you would normally pay $1,000 a month in energy, that you're $1,000 a month. $200 of that goes to pay for your energy, for your solar system, and the extra $800 that you have left over now goes towards a bigger home, a better life, a stronger life savings, a stronger retirement fund. And so what we have to do is we have to really, please, if you listen to the House of Assembly, if you listen to your MPs, if you listen to the talking heads, to the Chamber of Commerce and any of them, and there is no strategy presented for a sub 10 cents a kilowatt power generation, if there's no strategy for a smart grid system, and there's conversation about a smart island, a smart city, a smart country, a green island, a tech hub, a technology, whatever, and there is no sub 10 cent strategies, 10 cents power strategy, it's nothing but idle conversation. You must first have this strategy in place before you could talk about the other things. It's equivalent. The conversation we've been having in our country without the focus on BPL, Emera, technology, energy, the digital economy that's going to be here in 2020 because we're now in a knowledge-based economy, and the Bahamas national development, if it is not including energy, it's the same as doing two things: masturbation with the expectation of pregnancy, or hoping to win the lottery without ever buying a ticket. That's what we're doing. It is a fantasy. And so what we have to do is, the first thing government must do is come to us with an energy strategy. What is it that you will do to eliminate BEC as we know it? What is it that you will do to tell Emera bye-bye, 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 whatever it is? Okay, the song, goodbye. Nice having you here. Enjoy the wealth you've extracted from the backs of our people, and goodbye. You know, it's funny that Emera has no consideration for the Bahamian economy, to think that if you reduce to the bare minimum as called for the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. Now, we must not forget, the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement called for power generation at zero cost. Zero. Didn't want to do that sign thing, but zero cost. It's supposed to be at zero cost. That's the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. That's not me. The Hawkesbury Creek Agreement at zero cost plus a nominal fee for infrastructure. We just saw the infrastructure was not taken care of because the hurricane of 2016, or storm, not even hurricane, totally took out 90% of the poles. So infrastructure is not being maintained. The question is, if the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement called for power generation for the benefits of licensees at cost, then how is it that this company can take out a profit every single year, and ICD Utilities can also take out a profit which is owned by the very principal of the Grand Bahama Port Authority? But we're going to have that conversation on the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and it's tie-in to the same conversation, the Bahamas National Development, because the Prime Minister has said to you, Prime Minister Honorable Hubert Alexander Minnis has said to you, there can be no economic development without Grand Bahama. And I put to you, there can be no economic development on Grand Bahama with Emera and the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Cannot be any. And I'm talking about the Grand Bahama Port Authority as it's represented, not as it is. Because if you know the truth of how it is, then you'll know it's only a farce, it's a facade. And government has been playing along with this game of facade for a long time, since September of 1969. And that's the conversation we're going to have. Because unless you give us a real Grand Bahama, there can be no real Bahamas development. If Grand Bahama is the linchpin for the development of the Bahamas, then we need to have a true conversation of what Grand Bahama is, including Freeport and the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement, with or without the Grand Bahama Port Authority. And for those of you, and I just a sidebar, for those of you who don't understand, the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement can still exist without the Grand Bahama Port Authority. It actually made allocation for that. In fact, in 1990, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, as it is today, was not supposed to be. We're supposed to have municipal governance. So don't let them tell you, say, when you have a conversation with the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement, don't include the Grand Bahama Port Authority in it. Don't include the conversation of Emera. Those are defects that must be corrected, that we must do, that we must have a conversation on. Understand this for Bahamians. The Grand Bahama Port Authority conversation include every single Bahamian. This is not a Freeport conversation. Every citizen of the Bahamas, from Bimini to Inagua, must be included in the decision and conversation as to what we should do about the Grand Bahama Port Authority to cease paying this company. Ladies and gentlemen, we pay this company $2 million a week in tax concessions. We give the same company that we now trying to sell their property for, and that's the conversation I'm going to have tomorrow, the Alokaya and the tie-in to Bahamas National Development and the big lie about Hutchinson Whampoa, Grand Bahama, and the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. So let me not digress. Tune in tomorrow for that conversation. Again, we need to face the truth. We need to have what it is. But when you come back to the conversation, which I have Emera, what we have to do is we have to demand a cost analysis to put in a smart grid system on every island of the Bahamas, beginning primarily with New Providence and Grand Bahama, as those would be the key economic centers of our development, those two. On the smaller islands, those becomes easy fix because their need for power generation is so small as compared to the enormity of New Providence and Grand Bahama and maybe Abaco. And so I have a personal fix. I have an affinity for another island for which I'm going to begin a development plan to bring what is called a real digital island city type sub-country within the Bahamas towards and let those who want to digitize Grand Bahama deal with it. Because unless we fix Emera, there will be no digital Grand Bahama. There will be no digital Grand Bahama. There will be no economic recovery of the Bahamas without energy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you first, anyone who brings you a national development plan or a national development conversation without an energy strategy is a liar or ill-informed, plain and simple. And so we must begin to have the conversation, abandon BPL, abandon Emera, come up with a force, and let's simply transfer the $1 billion to the national debt. Because no matter how we may pretend for the Bahamian people, the international people, they know we owe $1 billion for BPL. They know we owe $1 billion for we owe $1 billion in other governmental agencies, a few $100 million for Bahamas Air, water and sewer, and wherever else that we somehow seems to subsidize. They know. We can pretend. Bahamas may not know. Bahamas may not even know that we owe over $3 billion in liabilities for pensions. All of you people who are working for government, ain't no money in the account for your pension. You have to hope that the economy survives. So every single month, government can make a payment out of the treasury, out of this consolidated fund towards your pension. The first time, the first day, the consolidated fund does not meet the net requirements of governance, and they can't borrow a dime to make it, you're going to see the whole deck of cards come tumbling. We owe $3+ billion in unfunded pension funds. Add that to the national debt. We owe $1 billion in legacy debt from BEC and old systems. We owe a couple million, 100 million, tens of millions in Bahamas Air. The same for water and sewer. And any other governmental agency we have. These are funded out of the treasury. And so we keep having the VAT brought us a windfall and we blew that. We shit that away. Brought us a windfall of sustaining the so-called treasury. And so where's the majority of our personal, our economy? And the economy I'm speaking of is your personal economy. Your home is your personal economy. Where's your wealth being sucked out of you? It's been sucked from the taxes they take from you. Every time you eat, sleep, shit, shower, shave, buy gas, go to work. There's nothing in this country that does not have a tax, a hidden tax incorporated within it. So don't believe that you're not paying tax. Okay? When you go to Burger King, you're paying tax. Wendy's paying tax. Any fast food paying tax. When you go to the gas station, tax. When you go into work and they turn on the light, it's a tax built into that. The clothes you're wearing, tax. Okay? You're being taxed to death. And I think so we need a TEA. We need a Tea Party in the Bahamas. A tax enough already party for us to change. But the greatest tax that we have on us is the energy tax. The food stores, they don't pay light bill. I bet it surprised many of you. The food stores, in the truest sense, do not pay light bill. They don't pay taxes. They don't pay VAT. They don't pay anything. You, the consumer, does. You pay the VAT. You pay their light bill. So here it is that you're sitting at home paying your light bill, which is killing you, and you're paying the food store light bill at the same time. Do you really think Mr. Rupert Roberts eats the light bill? Or do you think it's included in a can of cream? Or you think it's included in a loaf of bread? It is. Food stores don't pay the bill. Businesses don't pay the bill. So the only way for your bill, for your total cost of living to go down is for their light bills to go down. Their energy costs to go down. When you get water, guess what's included in the cost of water? You got it. Electricity. You do that. Every time you turn on your faucet for water, your electricity, guess what? The pumps are run on electricity. If you're part of a sewer system, every time you flush the toilet, electricity. I ask you to consider, what in our country is not affected by energy? So energy is our number one problem. But you have leadership talking about the dump. Let me show you something. The dump. A national asset. Okay? The dump, our dump, should be surrendered to a sovereign wealth fund. It is a natural resource. Progressive countries around the world look to their garbage as a source of energy, and we are talking about giving it away. Garbage. Garbage is cash money in the 21st century. A sovereign wealth fund would hire someone to manage the dump in the same manner that we do for the airport. You bring in an energy company who will manage the dump. Notice I didn't say a garbage company, what we call waste management company. I say we bring in an energy company to manage the dump. Let's turn that into some cash. But they don't own the dump. They get a management fee. And that power that is generated is sold or provided to the grid at a net zero cost to us. Because we're going to own the grid, we're going to own the dump, and we're going to own the backup power supply. Which brings us to the whole concept. If we was to adopt a clean energy policy, a green energy policy, and you begin to say, and you begin to generate power on your own, you could actually begin to pay for a system, because we're going to have some industries that, literally speaking, would not ever be able to generate the level of power that they need because of the land mass they would need. But imagine 90,000 homes in the Bahamas, each generating a little bit of power that in the daytime feeds not only their homes, but they feed this development sector, this commercial or industrial sector, along with the power grid. So in the daytime, we lend our power to the power grid, the extra power we have, and the nighttime, when the consumption in the commercial and industrial sector is not as heavy as needed, we just get it back from them. And whatever we generate in extra, more than we consume, becomes to us as part of a profit regime. These are the type of thinking that we have to have. We have to have where individuals who have the capability of generating power become economically empowered, because there is a need for power anywhere in the Bahamas. We could also move to reducing consumption. LED light bulbs. You know, let me see if I can bring this light bulb right here to you. Okay. We can turn this off right here. This light bulb right here is an LED light bulb. Okay. This light bulb provides me, I think, about 60 watts of power for the same thing as a 3 watts of electricity. 60 watts of power, 3 watts of electricity. The light over there, 5 watts consumption, providing me with the lighting that is equivalent to 100 watts of power. And so one of the things that we could immediately do is that we could basically move towards just reducing consumption in every single home. Believe it or not, for you guys in New Providence, I just want you to know that this 3 watt, as well as the 5 watt light bulb, daylight cost me $2 on Grand Bahama. $2. Okay? I know some of you are paying $15, $20, $30, $60 on NASA for some watt light bulb. I've had one of these light bulbs on just to see how it lasts for almost a year. I've had it on in a closet, never turned it off, just to see how long it lasts. $2. Imagine now buying this in bulk for every single home in the Bahamas, a 5 watt LED light bulb. Okay? See, for you guys to see, that's the 3 watt LED light bulb. Okay? Provides the whole energy spectrum. And so what we have to do is we have to rethink what we consider possible. Let me just put this back up. This is kind of acting as a backlight for me tonight. And so all we have to do is basically have what is called a real conversation with those informed. And believe it or not, you know, I know a lot of people say, you know, Seattle, you seem to know a lot. I do. I spent 14 years, for the last 14 years, I've done nothing. I became obsessed with my country, every single island, every single discipline. And I have no problem in becoming part of a collaborative collective for which I also exchange ideas. So when you hear me speak, I'm the sum total of all the people around me. Just so happen that I'm the one speaking. They also are equal to or greater than I. And so I am the sum total of all the individuals that I put myself around. Imagine if all of us as behemoths were to come together. But when you talk about energy, if we put LED light bulbs in every single home in the Bahamas and move them from consuming 100 watts, 60 watts to 3 and 5 watts, if they have 10 light, imagine a home with 10 60 watt light bulbs. They're now consuming 600 watts of electricity. And you replace those 10 watts with 3 watts light bulb. So they have now went from 600 watts to 30 watts of electricity of consumption in that home. Let's replace home with solar or LED or gas water heaters. 30% of your light bill gone out the window. 30% of your light bill is gone out the window in just removing your water heater. There is now technology that's evolved right now to allow even for solar cooling. Use a combination of putting a solar ventilator on top of the roof that reduces the attic heat within your home to sub AC type environment. And so 80% of the heat within your home is technically generated from the attic. And so if you keep your attic cool with a whole house attic fan that sucks the air from inside up into the attic, or some aerators that actually remove the heat from the attic, whether you use it directly on top of the roof or on a gable farm environment, you could actually connect these to solar energy. This doesn't use any energy. These are less than $125 per home. And that's if you buy them singularly. If you buy them in bulk, the prices go down significantly. And so you put those on every home in the Bahamas. Let's put it at $150. Immediately, there's almost no need for AC. But for those individuals that want to run AC, if you are solar fed using a low energy required AC, guess what? You can run your AC on the solar feed, even on battery power in the nighttime. But if you actually want to, you could actually have solar ACs that has been proven. They have proven themselves in real-time world environment. And so what the government has to do is, instead of spending hundreds of millions of dollars revamping BEC or BPL as we call it, or having Emera spend money then claim they have to recover it, is that we have to redirect for the beneficial use of Bahamians those hundreds of millions of dollars. And that will be laying out a strategic plan for smart energy. Would it make sense that if you have 115,000 homes in the Bahamas, let's drop it to 100,000 homes in the Bahamas, and you want to spend $1,000, okay? Then, you want to spend $1 million or $10 million or $100 million, okay? Why not move towards providing a form of incentives? So instead of spending your money, put a strategy in place that allows you, with anticipation that you're not going to collect this revenue from the oil tax, that you now collect this revenue from actually having the economy grow. If you grow the economy, then you don't have to depend on the oil tax. And for those of you who don't understand why BEC is a must, why the government will not move it unless you insist, the government of the Bahamas has what is called a hidden energy tax, and it's in BEC. And it's in gas, just in fuel, not BEC, it's in fuel. Every time you drive on the road, the government makes a profit. That traffic jam that you're in, that's part of a strategy. You'll burn more fuel. That's more profit. That's $1.08, $1.40 for government. When you burn electricity on BEC, that's a fuel tax. You know, everything that you do in consumption-wise, it's a fuel tax directly tied with the fuel import in the Bahamas. And I know the conversation can go very easily. The individuals say, well, who benefits from the fuel? Who benefits from the fuel? Well, we all know who benefits from the fuel business in the Bahamas. So we don't need to go down that conversation again. But you have to ask yourself, when does the country benefit? When do we as a nation benefit? They've had their 50 years. This is 50 years since 1967. 50 years since 1967 of what we call majority rule. And 45 years of what we call independent rule. And you know, a lot of people celebrated the Jubilee year. For me, Jubilee is not when you got control of the car. Jubilee begins when I got my freedom, which is 73. So I'm looking forward to 2023, this new leadership that prophesied by Miles Monroe, the new dispensation of Jubilee, when we get our chains broken, when we get our whatever is removed from us. So 2023 is our year. So the decision we make between now and 2023 will determine whether we stay in bondage in the 21st century or we move to a 21st century global digital competitive environment. I'm not talking about the WTO. That's another garbage conversation for another day, because you have nothing to trade. What you have is the ability to be exploited. Our leaderships believe that they should make decisions on our behalf without us. Just let me say to you, governance without consent of the governed is the definition of slavery. I gave up the right for anyone to make me a slave. Governance without consent of the government, is the definition of slavery. That means there is no member of parliament that should or can make a decision without your consent. Now, your consent could be your silence. Your consent can be your silence. but none of them can make any decision without your consent. But please do not let your consent don't let your silence become your consent for them to do whatever they want, whether it be WTO, whether it's for any type of decision, whatever it is. They will tell you that you elected them for 5 years. That's not how governance works. If they come to you with that story, it begins to show you that they have no understanding of what governance is. And they do not deserve to sit in the Honorable House of Assembly. If you do not understand the intent for which you are sent to the House of Assembly, you deserve not to be there. You are now exercising ambition over what you have the ability, ambition over ability. We didn't send people who had ambition not equal to their ability to the House of Assembly. At least we didn't assume we were. And if we are, we ask you to do us a favor, resign so we can have a by-election and put capable individuals there. But we must, Bahamians, demand from individually. I don't want you to demand from the Free National Movement. I don't want you to demand from the PLP. I want you to go and call your member of parliament and ask him, what is the energy strategy? What is the strategy for national development? Without energy, there can be no technology. Without technology, there can be no 21st century development. And technology is 100% dependent. 100%. This device in my hand is 100% dependent upon energy. Almost everything in your house depends on energy. Everything that you do, everything that you consume, when you walk into the food store, it is an energy consumption apparatus. The store has the AC on, it has the freezers on, it has the light on, the cash register running, all running on energy. The owners of those stores include those in the price of the food you eat. The owners of those stores include those in the price of the clothes you buy. So energy is the all-consuming evil for which we must fix if we are to have a 21st century Bahamas. Let us demand that BEC, or BPL as we know it, cannot be fixed. Ladies and gentlemen, I challenge the leadership, the board of BPL, to just make a statement. You make a statement for all kind of crazy crap. Make a statement, say, it's a statement by C. Allen Johnson that BPL cannot be fixed or adopted for a 21st century Bahamas is untrue. And at the same time, I want you to lay on the table the plan, the strategy to prove me wrong. Don't just say it. Lay the evidence to prove me wrong that BPL is not a dinosaur, an albatross around the necks of Bahamians. Let's recognize BPL for what it is. Let's begin to build us a 21st century smart grid system that allows for Bahamians to plug into the grid and provide green energy, whether it be wind, solar, tidal energy, or even from a government perspective, even garbage. The city dump that we're crying about, burning, is an energy source. Let's convert it. Let's put it into sovereign wealth fund and have all garbage. You know, the cruise ship that dumps the garbage here, let's convert it to energy. Let's actually become a zero garbage in a landfill type environment where what we can't recycle, we will actually convert to energy. Green, clean energy. There is technology that allows you to convert 100% of garbage into technology. You have countries around the world that is looking to import garbage just for their energy needs because they have run out of garbage. They are so efficient in recycling and garbage, use of garbage, that they're now looking for means to which they can import garbage. We can very easily become that because we just need a strategy for energy. Our strategy for energy will include the dump. Our strategy for energy must include the dump. Our strategy for energy must include tidal energy. Our strategy for energy must include solar. Our strategy for energy must include wind. But we must have one. Not just saying that we want one, we must have one. I beg you, Cabinet. I beg you, House of Assembly. I beg you, Members of Parliament. I beg of you, Senators. Make this your number one priority. Without it, all you are doing is singing Dixie. You are misleading us. You are lying to us, because you cannot have a 21st century development without energy. It's another part that I believe in. I believe that we need a minister of energy and technology, because they're one and the same. A minister of energy and technology, if you want to throw the environment into that. But minister of energy, technology, and environment, if you want to just clean it up to make sure that we don't destroy the environment, looking for means to which to harness the energy, seeing that the way we will be doing the way we'll be doing energy in the Bahamas is requires us to basically, you know, with the what's the energy field, with the tidal energy requires us to go into the environment. With the solar energy, it requires us to tap into the environment, and also with wind energy, it also requires us to tap into the environment. So in essence, we maybe could include the environment, but we must have a minister. And you don't necessarily need a minister. You know, minister says that he will be a minister of a CEO type environment. Okay, appoint a secretary that answers directly to cabinet, a secretary of energy and the technology. Appoint a secretary, a competent individual that understands the 21st century, not just understands today, but understands 2020, 2025, and 2030, and can plot a path as to exactly how do we get the Bahamas there, island by island, person by person, and from a national perspective. Just appoint a secretary of energy and technology, and maybe with the influence of the environment, or have the environment minister participate with him. We don't necessarily have to boil down cabinet, so that individual don't need to have a whole ministry. They just need to have the secretary of the energy and technology, just need to have a team that goes and then analyze every single island and brings back a report of today, tomorrow, and well into the future. But let's insist, again, I beg of you, ladies and gentlemen, please call your individual MP, call the radio stations, call your television stations, and demand of them the energy strategy for the Bahamas. You cannot have it. You will not have any development without one. Everything I tell you, everything you do, everything, nothing exists in the Bahamas without energy affecting it. And so as long as our energy generation is garbage, as long as our energy cost is above 10 cents a kilowatt hour, we're just whistling Dixie. We're just wasting time. We're just making announcement for announcement's sake. They're selling you hope, false hope, because it means nothing if you generate a business. Imagine a person, a small business person, right? Begins a business, and you want to have the place cool and whatever else. You could almost expect a light bill from $500 to $1,000 a month. So before you have even begin your business, you got to put $10,000 down for light bill. That's before you even start. You know, government said they can give you $5,000 and $10,000. So before you start your business, you know, you have to do a business plan. Let's say we can do a 1-year plan. Start $10,000 down, electricity. Put it down, because that's where it starts from. So if you don't have the $10,000 for electricity, you ain't starting no business. That's before you begin to pay rent and all the other business and licensing fees. You ain't ready. You ain't serious. Unless you can have a business that operates outside under the tree. If it goes inside, but you want people to have the electricity, be comfortable in having your business, put $10,000 down for light. Other than that, you ain't ready. Put $5,000 down. That's the first thing. That means every single month, generate $500. Your first $500, put it down for light. Then understand. And remember, every time you go buy that pencil, the paper, whatever it is you go, they have a light bill to give you too. That truck driver, he has a fuel bill to give you. Because when he brings your stuff to you, he included fuel in it. Okay? When you go to Winn-Dixie, you know, in case some of you decide you like to eat, you know, you might want to eat sometime during the year. Remember, he's adding his light bill, his water bill, because they, you know, the water, they use electricity to send it to you. He's adding all of those bills into the price of milk, into the crate of eggs, into that loaf of bread. When you go to buy your outfit, whether it be from downtown or from the lady on the corner, her light bill is included in that outfit. So you're paying for energy all the way around. Get the cost of energy down, watch the economy go up. Energy down, economy up. Energy down, economy up. No energy solutions, no economic empowerment. You definitely can't talk about a 21st century Bahamas not without an energy solution. You got to be joking. Green Bahamas? You kidding me? Without an energy solution? You got a strategy to make the island green. You want a smart Bahamas? Imagine this one device, right? Now you want to go to a smart island or smart city or smart country where everything is technology. Okay, so we're going to take our current light bill, multiply it by 100. If we keep using the 40 cents, it ain't happening. It ain't happening. There'll be no smart city. There'll be no smart island. There will be no smart country. There will be none of that without an energy strategy, a plan on doing it. A green island is not just green, you know, it's also an energy strategy. It ain't happening. So let's have the conversation. Nothing happens from today without an energy strategy. Call your MP, call the radio stations, post it on Facebook. They read it, they harvesting the information. Ask them, where's the energy strategy? Where's the energy strategy? Where's the energy strategy? Tell me how you're going to remove electricity from my bread. Tell me how you're going to remove electricity from my shirt. Tell me how you remove electricity or reduce electricity from my phone. Tell me how you will reduce electricity from my home. Tell me how you will reduce electricity for everything involving the Bahamas. Tell me how. Energy, Mr. Hubert Alexander Menace. If you want to be taken seriously, over the next week or two, bring us your energy plan. Publish it. Publish it. Publish it. Publish your energy plan. Nothing you say to us until you publish an energy plan will be taken seriously. You'll be calling us fools because you will be telling us about how we are about to win the lottery, and you have never even bought the ticket. Don't call us fools. Energy, energy, energy. Please bring the energy strategy. Bring the strategy to remove BPL. Send Emera packing. They could stay here and they can keep the energy thief, the plant, but we won't be using their electricity. We want a grid for where C. Allen Johnson can plug in and I can give my sister electricity for free. Just pay a small fee for the distribution to get it to her. I don't have a problem in that. But, you know, she might just want to relax and sit home, and I have the resources to generate electricity. So why does she need to have a complete plant at her house and in my house when it may be possible between myself and my twin, we could generate enough electricity for 3 homes. So she can now be 10 miles down the road and have the benefits of he and I generating electricity, and he and I may be 10 miles apart. But cumulative consumption, when we deliver to the grid, say for 2 cents, we buy it back for 3. So technically we could provide electricity to my sister for a penny a kilowatt. She could turn on the AC, freeze herself to death. We could buy some jackets. That's what a 21st century environment does. It allows individuals entrepreneurship. It creates entrepreneurship. It reduces the cost of electricity. It allows us now to become globally competitive, where we can actually begin to attract the Amazons, the Dells, the hospitals, the second homeowners. You know, those individuals, they're looking at the same thing we are. You know, they're not fools. In an individual that intend to retire to the Bahamas, they have financial advisors. Their financial advisors looks at the energy, not just crime. They look at the energy costs. They're going to tell them, yeah, you could find a house in the Bahamas and you build it yourself and you have the ability to finance it in the U.S. It'll cost you $800 a month. But they say, well, your light bill will cost you $1,500 a month. So consider another location. Consider Puerto Rico, not even Puerto Rico because they're in a little problem, but consider Costa Rica or some other place. So this whole company about, second home ownership, guess what? It ain't happening. You see they're building a new Alokaya, they're going to buy Alokaya. Guess what? How do you build or buy Al-Qaeda, and you're going to make Emera a partner, and they're not even going to spend a dime. We have to make Emera a partner in Al-Qaeda without them spending a dime, because Emera going to make money from these exorbitant costs of electricity provided to the hotel. We're going to make them partners. Emera is partners with every single person on the island that has electricity, with no pity, in violation of the Hawke's Creek Agreement. That's a whole conversation that the new administration has to answer. How do they come in here and generate profit when the law, what we call the Hawke's Creek Agreement, says that power is to be generated at cost? Violation of the law. But we don't seem to have any respect for the law. But then we complain when others have no respect for the law, and they kill and they murder and they maim. But it requires that we also be consistent in what it is that we believe. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, I ask you, post on your page. If you call the radio stations, call and ask them, please, what is the energy strategy? Especially for those of you on Grand Bahama. What's up your MP? Email them, post to their page, message them, and say, hey, maybe forward them this video. What is your energy strategy? Ask the newspapers, why are they bullshitting us with these stories about what's coming and what's going to happen, and there's no energy strategy. Every time a guest come here and they say they're not getting value for money, you know why? Because that room has to include electricity. Guess what? Electricity to wash the sheets, electricity to the stuff they use to clean the room. The cost of electricity is in that, because the company for which they got that from include the cost of electricity in it. So now when they're downstairs washing the sheets and the towels, the cost of electricity is in that. Then you have to keep the AC on in the room. Okay? The hotel must keep the place well lit at night, or even in the daytime in the corridors and everything. Electricity. They must prepare the food in the dining room and for serving whatever. Electricity. They must pay the individuals who happens to be wearing clothes that actually have the cost of electricity in it. When they go to pick up the supplies to run the hotel, electricity is included inside of those supplies. So when the guest comes here and complains that the price is not competitive, it's all because of BPL and Emera. Because I know we may not give it any thought, but electricity, energy, is part of the reason why we are not competitive. We can't compete with the world paying 8 times what they pay. We can't. And they don't care if we continuously just brag and cry about who's making the money. Let's fix the problem. Let's go green. Government, before you spend another $300 million on electricity, how about choosing a strategy where you spend less on fuel because you're spending a little bit more to have us go green? Less on fuel, more on green energy. And so guess what? Eventually, it'll come a point that we'll be spending nothing on fuel. And guess what? As we recover our investment from green energy, our costs keep going down. Until guess what? Free energy. We get free energy. It's a simple calculation. That's the strategy we need from them. So we spend less on fuel and more to develop. If the government takes a few thousand homes off the grid through the LED light bulb, through the solar water heaters or gas water heaters, to get rid of the electric stoves, to bring energy efficient ACs and other things in, SEER, efficient ACs and other things. Let's ban anything that doesn't meet SEER, say 13 or so. Let's ban it. Let's have a recycling program so we can put them in the dump and create energy from it. Let's move the dump into a sovereign wealth fund so we can hire a management company and use it to generate wealth. Because the garbage is no longer a cost. You know how the government scream, oh, we got to start charging you for garbage? Guess what? If the government is using the garbage to generate money, then how could there be a cost to pick up the fuel from you? If the government creates the dump into an energy source, they need your garbage. So they should be picking up your garbage every day to get it to the dump so they can convert it to energy to provide to the power company. So this conversation is, if you continue the same way, then yes, you need to say, oh, we need to charge you for garbage pickup. That's the old wineskin. That's the old ideas. We need to demand a rethinking of our economic model, rethinking of our practice. Why charge you for garbage? If I need garbage, you'd imagine I have something you need to generate electricity. You want to charge me to pick up your fuel, so you could charge me to send it back to me as energy? That's foolishness. I'll give you the garbage in exchange for lower price in electricity. That's what we want. It's simple, you know. So guess what? All them garbage bins you see around the place, they'll be emptied every single day, because they need the garbage there every single day to continue run the plant. You won't be able to, you'll be able to barely empty that can before they knock on the door and ask you have any garbage this week. And that's how efficient our system for trash removal becomes. All of the bulk trash and whatever, what we don't decide to mulch and make into lawn and garden and whatever else in our environment, we just have to rethink. This is what the whole green is. Rethinking, redesigning. It may not happen in the morning, but energy needs to. But we need that new grid. We need that smart grid that is being built out over the entire Bahamas while we decommission the current legacy system that we have. Let's transfer the legacy debt to government. It's ours anyway. Whose government? We are. Don't have them believe that BPL is some separate company somewhere that doesn't exist. You're BPL. You're the government. You own BPL. You're responsible for the bill. So let's not pretend. The $1 billion in legacy debt and whatever else we may find buried in that tomb called BPL, it's ours. It's ours. Let's put it in its proper perspective. Or, you know what we could do, right? Let's move BPL legacy debt into that SPV. I think they call it special purpose vehicle. Okay, if you don't want to put it to the national debt, right? Since we all effed up, we sat up by and we give them consent. Our silence was consent for them to screw us over with this company called BPL or BEC as we knew it. Our consent. Good. Now that's what I'm saying. We're paying 40 cents. We're paying 40 cents for power right now. Here's a deal for you, government. Transfer the $1 billion of legacy debt into a special purpose vehicle. Give us a 21st century smart grid system so we can put energy into the grid, and even if we don't, energy will be sub 10 cents. And here's what we let you do. We will let you add 5 cents to the 10 cents, because we're paying 40 something cents now. So we don't mind paying 15. So we'll allow you, put the $1 billion into this special purpose vehicle, and we'll let you charge us 5 cents until we retire that $1 billion worth of debt. Just tell me that. That's real simply say, because you're gonna take 35 cents off the bill, right? So it's down to 10 cents. So we'll say move it to 15 cents. So 10 cents is my light bill. 5 cents is to go to pay off, allowing you to screw us over, allowing us to accept incompetence, ineptitude, and incapability as a form of governance. So we'll accept that we screwed up. We allow that. You got us. Good one. You got us. You catfish us. You got us. We'll pay that. So move that to special purpose vehicle. The $1 billion gone. Give us the 21st century grid system, the smart grid system that can manage balance of electricity, allow thousands of homes to deliver power to the grid beyond what they're consuming in their house, allow them to get it back at night. You know, Telsa could help us with that if necessary on battery storage or whatever. We could create a smart grid system, allow you to create silos within the community. So, you know, for whatever power it is, they understand technology will actually let you know when your energy consumption is a little off. You know, so that's what technology does. But, you know, we need electricity for technology. It allows us to fix and balance that whole that technology type environment. So, you know, for you guys in Bainstown, when your consumption goes up, the system knows how to balance and reroute it. And that's what the smart grid does. And so you now generate electricity, put solar up, put a wind power up. I mean, you may just generate enough electricity to run a lap. You then reduce consumption because we got LED in all of the houses. We get gas stoves in all of the houses. We have gas water heaters, gas dryers. We have solar water heaters for those who can, whatever it is. We've totally reduced consumption of the entire island. We then knock off a couple dozens of megawatts that be required on a daily basis. So we then knock out consumption. We then reduce consumption down to 1/3 of whatever it is we generate. Now we have the smart grid system that we always monitor, we upgrade as we develop the system, as we develop the country, as more people come online, as more people begin to use these devices, because we want to put about 5,000 to 10,000 young people a year to work utilizing technology. Again, this technology is not connected anywhere. This isn't connected to anywhere, so British uses energy. We want to put them to work. We want them to be walking around generating income with these devices in the 21st century global environment. So that solves the problem. Energy, energy, energy. You notice what I said? Everything is energy. Everything is energy. Everything is energy. We cannot exist in a 21st century global environment unless we bring our energy under control. There is solutions. Our problems may be complicated. The solutions are simple. The country's problems may be complicated, but the solutions are simple. And so thank you guys so much for joining me. Call your MP, post to your page, demand the energy strategy. If you speak on the radio station, you call and ask them. Write your MP, WhatsApp your MP, text your MP, Facebook your MP, message your MP, do whatever and ask them, please stop BSing us. Present the energy strategy. Present us a Minister of Energy and Technology to have this discussion for a 21st century Bahamas. Don't promise us no technology hub. Don't promise us no smart island, no smart park, no smart city, no smart country when you cannot bring the platform for which all of that is based on, energy consumption. We can't pay 8, 9, 10 times what the world pays to do the same thing and accomplish it. So we have to have it, bring it under control. Junk BEC, move it into a special purpose vehicle, build that smart grid system, build a smart grid system on Grand Bahama, make Emera obsolete. Emera is ultra-virus to the Silicon Valley promise by the Prime Minister and the Free National Movement on the campaign trail. Emera is ultra-virus. So if Emera is part of that whole system and there is no strategy for sub 10 cents, you're BSing us for Grand Bahama. You really are. Please, no more BS. We are in crisis. We need revitalization of the economy. And the only way for that to change is energy. The only way for us to adopt a 21st century global environment where technology becomes the basis for which we diversify the economy. If we want to go to digital banking, it requires computers, energy. If we want to go to fintech, digital financial services, it requires energy. If we want to go to RegTech, regulatory, it requires energy. If we want to go to education, edutech, which is educational technology, for where global people come to the Bahamas for education, it requires technology, which requires energy. If you name it, a 21st century business environment does not exist without access to low-cost, clean, reliable energy. Tulsa and other people are doing it. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. God gave us a geolocation superior to any other country. We are well poised for tidal energy, solar energy with the radiant heat that's produced in the Bahamas, and wind energy. We live in the trade winds. That's how Columbus got here, you know. The winds blew him here before he got lost and was found by the Arawak Indians. Yes, he was lost. He didn't discover anything. They found him at sea and rescued him. The trade winds. It's all in our history book. It's whatever it is that is there. Energy. We got wind, we have solar, we have tidal. We have everything that's needed. We just now need leadership. We only need leadership to bring our energy cost and redefine the Bahamas. Let us be a global competitive environment. Those things we talk about, where we talk about blockchain, where we talk about making the Bahamas an environment for second home ownership, for high net worth people to live, work, and play. We can do this, but it requires first to fix our energy problem. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to choose a topic on a daily basis and have a conversation. We're going to have a conversation on the prison. We're going to have a conversation on rehabilitation, which is called corrections and rehabilitation, because there is a difference. One where you correct behavior, one where you rehabilitate people. What we have is a dungeon, it's not a prison. We're going to talk about the detention center. I know a top issue I want to talk about is citizenship and what the Constitution says as opposed to what you think. We need to have that conversation. We're going to have a conversation about the so-called digital Grand Bahama. There's an island that I'm going to focus on and come up with a strategy to be able to present to the Bahamas, to the Bahamian people within the next 6 months or so. I'm working on the financing to put together the strategy plan for you to see the way an island should look like. You know, I don't know what the government strategy is for Grand Bahama. I don't know what it is for Abaco. I don't know what it is for New Providence. So I'm going to take, my personal effort I've been advocating for and focus it on another island that I see and know that has the potential of becoming the technology hub of the Caribbean. And it is poised. It was a location that was targeted by a major group of investors from South America that built a huge technology center in the United States that wanted to build in the Bahamas, that we dropped the ball on that. I'm not going to mention the island because I'm going to focus my energy from an investment perspective to put together the plan and then make the announcement of what that particular island is. But we're going to have conversation on all of these things. If you have any questions and any suggestions on what you want me to elaborate on, I can be reached on WhatsApp or phone call or text 242-443-7189. 242-443-7189. You could hit me up on any of my social media accounts and let's have a conversation. What topic you want me to talk about? I'm going to try to find a set time every day for us to begin to have this conversation, because information, data is the new currency of the 21st century, so that you can actually prepare your mind. And one of the good topic I want to talk about, I think my next topic is going to be about housing. It's going to be about hope, HOPE, home ownership promotes empowerment, because home ownership is going to be that key to our economic development. When we talk about this new tourism product or this new dispensation of tourism, where we have bed and breakfast, that type of environment, it requires home ownership. So home ownership promotes empowerment. That's going to be my next subject. I'm going to jump right to that over the other things. Home ownership promotes empowerment. That includes the bed and breakfast. That includes whether it's a larger type apartment complex or whatever. It's whether you own it by providing home that temporarily or permanently to other people. But home ownership promotes empowerment, hope. How do we bring hope to the people? How do we solve this problem that we have within our country about the thousands of individuals that are losing their home due to the mortgage crisis? Why? Because again, they were paying their energy bill because they couldn't survive without electricity and they couldn't afford their mortgage bill. It can be fixed. Together we can build a better Bahamas. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that we possess the intellectual capacity to become the greatest little nation in the world. I've seen, let me use an expression, I've been to the mountaintop. I've seen the future, and it is great. It is grand. It is the future for your sons, your daughters, and your grandchildren. But it requires us to believe. It requires us to act on that belief collectively and move towards the future. I'm telling you, it's grand. There's no giants in the land. Don't mind the MPs. There is no giants in the land. God is on our side and we will conquer. And we will become the #1 first class digital country in the world built upon a resource economy. Aragonite, salt, solar energy. I forgot that. You know, salt. Just to me, insecticides about to leave. Do you know salt, solar salt, is going to become the #1 ingredient in the solar energy environment? Because solar salt, what the solar salt does is that the solar panels and uses the energy of the daytime to melt the solar salt, making the solar salt a battery. And as the solar salt cools, it generates heat, and the heat turns the turbines that burn steam and turn the turbines and generate electricity at night. Guess what? We are one of only 3 places in the world that solar salt is produced. The Bahamas is one of only 3 places in the world that solar salt is produced. And solar salt is becoming the new battery for solar energy. Isn't it funny that God gave us the sun and the solar salt? You think that he knew where we're going to be at this destination in time, to this place in time? I absolutely believe he did. He gave us the sun and the solar salt that is becoming the new battery. You put it in a container under the ground, the solar panels melt the salt while generating electricity. In the nighttime, as the solar salt cool, it gives off heat, turn the turbines, generate electricity, free electricity all the way around. What better stuff than that? But we must have a strategy. We must have a plan. And we will have none unless you join me in demanding that we do. Post it, share this video, share the message, and make the demand. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me know what we should talk about. I'm going to talk about hope next. Home ownership promotes empowerment. I'm going to bring to you a 5-finger plan that actually allows for economic empowerment through home ownership. I'm going to talk to you about how you could own the tourism industry with little or no money down. I'm going to explain to you how you could build. Like the page, share the page with someone because they're going to hear this too. I'm going to explain to you how, with the proper policy or laws, you as a Bahamian can build a 10-room hotel at literally no cost to you and get paid for it in advance and sit at home and make money, and it only requires Atlantis do it every day. The other investors in our country, they do it every day. It's a hidden, it's a secret in plain sight. And so it requires you to think. You have to ask yourself, how does Atlantis make their millions and millions of dollars? How does these other investors get their money to build their hotels and things in advance? It's a very simple process. And we're going to talk about that, if not tomorrow, Tuesday at the latest. But I'm going to aim for tomorrow evening. Look at my page for time. Send me a WhatsApp on what else you want to talk to. 443-7189, 443-7819. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you, Bahamas. It is God, family, myself, and country. I'm willing to put country before me. But I have to feel that my debt or whatever it is that I'm sacrificing is not in vain. With the current leadership, past and present, I haven't seen that reason why that I should actually do. But I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep fighting for you. I'm not just fighting for you. I'm fighting for my sons, my daughters, and my grandchildren, and my yet-to-be-born great-grandchildren. I'm fighting for them. The Bahamas is theirs. My parents, they fought for me. They were part of that revolution. They fought so I can be here today. It is only fair and incumbent upon me to fight for my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren to be born. Thank you again for joining me, and until tomorrow, love you, Bahamas.